says hi, Neil. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Here for a chat.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend!
Hello and welcome to episode 323 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, the 23rd in the evening, 23rd of December, that is. Christmas Eve, for those of you that are into that sort of thing. From Gadget in New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Karazhan, California, we've got Podcast.
Yep.
And from Nomergon, Ohio, we've got Edelweiss.
Hello.
Hello, and from where you are, listener, we've got you. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you. You're wonderful. Thank you to all of our patrons, and thank you to all of you who have left reviews. Really helps other people find the show. So, Life and Ladder. Who wants to talk to me? Edelweiss, you seem like you wanted to talk about Life and Ladder before the show.
So, I've been really enjoying the nerfs, but I'm not super happy about Mozaki Mage. I wish that was not a thing. Besides that, it's been pretty good. Been trying a lot of other mages. They put out some new skins, and I'm weak, so even though I only wanted one of them, I actually got the whole bundle. I wanted the mage skin, and normally I wouldn't do that. I was able to you know, keep control when the Red Riding Hood Jaina was around, but this time I gave in and I got the Elsa Jaina skin. So
Yeah.
I played a whole bunch of mage decks.
That'll happen. There are a lot of great mage skins out there. It is maybe the class with the most portrait depth. At least it's up there. But yeah, I feel like with the new skin bundles that they're doing, I think that they're not going for buy all of them. They price them a little higher and put more work into them, and then say you're probably only going to get one of these every so often. But when you do, you're going to get them all. That's what happened with me with the robots. Like the mecha skins, I was unable to resist the mecha skins, and it seems like instead that you have been taken in by the, I don't know, Winter Veil theme. Like it's not there's the holiday-ish, there's the definitely not Christmas one, air quotes. It's the Christmas one, but it's you know Winter Veil, and then there's the one where everyone's just cold, and you like that one.
Right. I do like that one. I wish that the hero power was something frosty instead of, because it feels weird having the regular fire hero power, but I get that these are not that premium tier of skin or whatever. I don't know what to call it. In League of Legends, it was always like, well, you could tell by the pricing. There was the 900 level skins and the 1350 and the 1800, and in terms of their in-game resource. So yeah, these are the level of skin that the hero power doesn't change, but they have voice lines and new art.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I want to say I do not particularly enjoy every time I log into the client, I get a pop-up that says to buy this thing.
Yes.
I don't. It makes me feel like the game's cheaper. It's like it feels like the game's begging me for money at this point. Which
yeah,
it
not
never
cheaper
did
as in
before.
less expensive, but cheaper as in like more in need of your money.
Yeah. Whereas Hearthstone never felt like that to me. It always felt like I spend my money on this game because I feel like the work they put in deserves it, and I can save myself time grinding gold to get packs just to spend some money on it, and it felt worth it. But now it's like every time I log in, it's like, there's this new bundle you should check out in the shop. You can click here to buy it now. And it's like, I don't know, it feels like the games that people always complain about, where it's just like pay to win games. And I know a lot of people are probably listening thinking, well, yeah, Hearthstone's always been pay to win, which I don't think is true. but there's that sentiment out there a lot. But now it's like, I don't know, it feels bad. It does not feel good when I log in, and that happens every time.
On the one hand, I'm happy that they are putting all these cosmetic options in there because there didn't used to be very much. And so this is leaning more into the direction of, say, League of Legends, which was the free to play, but then we have all these cosmetics, and they released a ton of cosmetics. And there were these different levels and different things, and you could not keep up to get all of them, which it used to be you could get everything in Hearthstone, and like that was an achievable thing to have all the cosmetics. No more. You're not doing that. Which is fine, because if they do get to maybe not shift to be mostly from, but if they can lean more heavily on people buying cosmetics, then they can give more of the what you need to play the game stuff out for free, which we've already seen from the rewards track giving us all kinds of more rewards. I have more gold than ever before from rewards track. So I get to just open more packs with gold every expansion. But yeah, I do kind of wish it was, well, if you want to know what's happening, you can click over to the shop, because let me tell you, there's always on the shop, it says like new, it's got the exclamation point, the thing saying, you have notifications, check the shop, see what's new. Like that would be enough for me. I don't need the pop-up as soon as I come into the client.
Yeah, I wish that was more pronounced and I didn't have to click out of the option every time. Because what I feel like it gets me to do now is, now it feels like I skip it no matter what it is, even if it would be something I'd be interested in. Because literally every time I log into the client, it's just like in your face, hey, this new thing, you should buy it, instead of just like an option on the side.
Well, and then you get in the habit of clicking out, and now you've clicked out of the balance changes, and you immediately go to play, and you don't realize that there's been balance changes. I mean, obviously this wouldn't happen to us, but one could imagine the play experience of someone that's not as tuned in and who feels similarly, where they're like, oh, I always have to click out for all of these things they're trying to get me to buy stuff. And then you click straight through the balance changes, and you go to play, and you're like, wait, why are my cards different?
Yeah. It's so, okay. Two perspectives here. The
obvious thing is they do this because it gets people to buy stuff and it makes them a lot of money. Yeah.
And so they've talked about this. Better cosmetic sales make the game cheaper, because if they can make more money off things you don't need and people opt into buying them, then things that you do need can be cheaper, which is why the rewards track exists and why the tavern pass is only purchasable with money. But really, outside of the diamond card and the experience boost, it doesn't have anything gameplay impacting, and you can get those things by other means. So we want more cosmetics in the game because we don't have to buy them. Also, again, logically, we do not have to buy these cosmetics. They are visual only for personal customization, and it's logically, being informed more theoretically could be better than not being informed. They'd have everything right in the client. But there's the other perspective, which I will just say, dude, Hearthstone, can you chill? Can you just chill? Because it's like when commercials come up on Twitch streams. Before, it was, I click sub if I want to pay this person my money, and now the ads are forced and they pay the streamers a little bit. Like, I understand that it is a business and they got to do the money, but I want some kind of opt-out for the pop-ups, or some kind of digest, or some kind of mark all as read on my notifications in the achievements and the shop. Like, I just want to not have to worry about that, and I understand that is against what the business model is, but it is so much more aggressive to ask you for money than give you the option to spend it. And the store does not feel like it can keep up with both the pace of releases and the volume of stuff that they have. It's not tabbed. It's just this giant, huge scrolling list that chugs whenever I scroll on my computer, because it's filled to the brim with new stuff. They had to change the border of the BG portraits, because I didn't know they were BG portraits or not. I'm glad that they added stuff. And again, to make sure I'm clear, I spent $60 on robot skins. So, like, I'm not saying that I'm not engaging with this. It is clear that it's working to a degree, and I'm glad that it makes the game cheaper. But it's just a lot of stuff all the time. I'm constantly being told about the new thing that I can buy, or maybe some categories tailor it to me. I don't play a lot of BGs. If I could say, hey, my main game mode is standard. If you want to tell me about constructed skins, fine, whatever. But just don't pop up the BGs thing when I haven't logged in a month. Just chill on that. They're nice skins. I like them. But you don't need to tell me about a game mode that I'm not playing right now. It's not useful to me. So I don't know. Maybe a little bit more discretion there in terms of what they advertise. I don't know how we got to this topic. How did we get here? What were we talking about?
Oh, because I mentioned that I've really been enjoying playing Mage with the new skin.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember now.
Didn't mean to totally
No, it's a good discussion.
derail.
It's fine. It's fine.
Well, I wanted
But-
to bring it up because it's something that's been on my mind every time I log into the client now. So
Yeah.
It's like I understand the need for it. I like that the cosmetics are in the shop. I know that it's going to take some structural work to make the shop work a little differently. They've got people aligned for that, but the messaging really ramped up, and I don't think it's a coincidence that was around the time Mercs got released. And it feels different in terms of approach. I think Pasco was the one who was talking about this. He said that since it started, especially with Mercs, he'd be less likely to let his kid play because of how much more aggressive the advertising is. And I think it might be to the point where there's upside, but I think there's some downside too, that you want to be able to say, no, the game really isn't all that expensive to play. If you don't want to, you can buy one bundle, you can just use the Tavern Pass, but the reward track, the free one. But if you tell someone it's not that expensive and they log in, they see $60 worth of Christmas skins, like that's it, they're just going to close the client and move on. So yeah. Good point.
And I know people have had issues of, kid plays Fortnite and wants to get all kinds of skins in Fortnite, or like gets a hold of the credit card and buys $200 worth of stuff that the parent then needs to refund. Like, I've heard horror stories, and it would suck to have similar stuff for Hearthstone.
Yeah,
but
and I'm glad you mentioned League of Legends too, because League of Legends it's a fascinating thing, and again, very few games are League of Legends, but it is a free-to-play game, and last year's revenue was $1.75 billion with a B. That's a billion. 1.75 billion. It's a very big number. Just think about. It's a big number. So that's on a game that's just cosmetics. It can be successful that way. But, League is the best in the business at that for a reason. There's revenue opportunity there, and it's good that the game has found another path towards monetization, but it definitely feels like they figured out that it worked, and so now they're going crazy with it. So yeah, I think it's a good point. Botticus, that means you've been logging into the client. Tell us about that. How's Hearthstone treating you?
That wasn't a good way to intro into my segment, but sure. I don't know. I've played a little bit. Basically played 3 different decks. I was playing a bit of Quest Priest for a while. It was kind of holding my attention for a little bit, and sharding people is really nice. I very much enjoy sharding people. But
thank you for enunciating that clearly. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. But after the patch, it's felt a lot worse. I also played a bit of Fel DH, and that's I think that's probably the first Demon Hunter deck I'm actually really enjoying playing. I like the playstyle. You get to draw cards. The Demon Hero is nuts.
Kurtrus, he's so good.
Is nuts.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of play to the deck, so I like it a lot. Lots of stuff to think about. And then lastly, after the patch, I started playing against a bunch of Hero Power Mages, and so I played some Hero Power Mage. It's fine. It's a deck. It
is accurate.
It can win games. It also loses a lot of games. I'm not thrilled or against the deck. It's just a deck that I play against and I have played.
All right, look. We found the list. Hat's been playing something similar in terms of the list that I've been on. I think the difference is you have Brain Free, or you have Flurry and Arcane Overflow. I do not have Arcane Overflow. I have Devolving Missiles. But it seems like the general direction is not really big spells. You have a Mask, you have Mordrish and Dawn Grasp and Talon, and that's like the top end.
Yeah.
And
Well, there are two different lists.
Tempo.
Some people are playing the big version still, like Habu Gabu. I know found some success with the big version. It actually plays Mass Polymorph, by the way. Very nice against Paladins. It's being explored. It doesn't feel hopeless. It's not hopeless. It's not an embarrassment. Before all the buffs, which we're going to talk about extensively, if you haven't, if you're unaware, and I want to talk about it in my Life and Ladder section, approximately 30 seconds, whatever. Before the buffs, after the last set of buffs, when they made Wildfire 1 and Mordrish 8, everyone tried the deck for about 40 minutes, and they're like, nah. Nope. Then they released this expansion, where Parrot was 8 in Wailing Caverns. Dead Mines. Parrot was 8 in Dead Mines. And Dawn Grasp, the hero, cost 8, and had a base hero damage of 1, and what was the third one? Oh, and Wildfire didn't stick. And everyone tried that deck for about 90 minutes. And it was like, really no. Absolutely not. But now, I've played this for a couple days. We played this for a couple days. It's like, you know what, there's something here. It reminds me of how Quest Hunter felt in Standard, where there are about 20 good cards, and then you play 10 more. And so, this deck has about 20-ish good cards that I'm happy to draw. If I get them on curve, I often win. But not 30. Definitely not 30 good cards. We got about 20.
I mean, I really like playing multicaster and drawing 4 cards. I
Yes.
very much enjoy doing that. That is a very good pastime. Mask of Cthulhu is a shadow spell. I don't know why Mage gets to cast shadow spells, but here we are. And big reason that deck feels like it works.
I mean, it was Old Gods things. That's why. But
Don't know
have
that
you-
it still makes sense for Mage, but we can go with it.
But,
I would
but
guess it
have
was
you
a
ever
soft buff to
multicastered-
this deck.
Have you ever multicastered for 5 or more?
No.
So my deck runs Flurry, Wildfire, Devolving Missiles, and Mask of Cthulhu, I believe. Oh, and Arcane Intellect. Wait, no,
It's-
that shares with
Devolving.
shares with Devolve.
Yeah, Mage doesn't have access to
Natural.
5.
Unless. Unless.
Oh no. Oh
no.
So I've been playing Cheesemonger.
Oh, of course you have. Do you want to tell everyone what Cheesemonger is? You want to remind people?
I'm
Because
actually over
they may
a
not know.
60% win rate.
What is Cheesemonger? Remind me what that card is.
Cheesemonger is a 4-mana 3/6, which is a totally reasonable stat line. That whenever your opponent casts a spell, you add a random one of the same cost to your hand. It's glorious. You get spells from other schools.
So you got a holy spell.
Or you know,
Nature.
I got
or
a palm
fell.
reading one time, and so that was what I used instead of
I'm
mask.
reading Shadow, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Oh, like you can do it easier.
Got it.
I've gotten Solar Eclipse, plus I got Apexis Blast, so I Solar Apexis Blasted my opponent to win the game. Yeah, you get all kinds of fun stuff.
It sounds goofy.
Mostly it was because I wanted a tech card that was more fun than Ogremancer, which costs 5, and 5 is not really where I want to be with my tech cards against Demon Hunter, because honestly, there's a lot of spell stuff right now. The sort of no fun things that I've been up against have been the Fel DH feels miserable unless they have expendable performers blocking a skull. If that exactly doesn't happen, it feels very hard to win. But I managed to cheese out some wins with our buddy the Cheesemonger. And similarly against Mazaki Mage, if they play Incanter's Flow by turn 4 or 5, it feels kind of hopeless. So I got a couple of wins because of Cheesemonger against that as well, because I really didn't want to run Mutinous. And yeah.
Our experience against FeldH is very different. I think that's one of our better matchups, because once they play...
How?
Well, you play Freeze-Your-Face Pingy Guy, Snow Flurry.
Yeah, but you get that twice.
Okay, but whenever you don't have minions, just keep it that way.
That doesn't... But then they play the spells, and they just kill you with Fel Barrages, and...
What life total are you at? You just play Mask Cthulhu, they have no minions in play ever, and then you kill them with hero powers and Mordrish.
But
are you
heal.
muted?
I had no valuable comments to actually add.
I mean,
I just said some stupid thing.
I don't know how our experiences have been this different. My experience has been that of a catch-22, where if I don't play minions, then I get Fel Barrage and Furied to death, and then they play Jace, and they kill me with Jace. And if I do play minions, then they do the expendable performers nonsense.
Yeah, the first game I played with my low curve Zoo Mage list, which I'll talk about shortly, was against No Hands on stream, and he was playing FeldH, and I was playing Cornelius Rome in the deck at the time, so my turn 8 was Cornelius Snow Flurry Ping. He had to expendable to clear the Cornelius, then I just didn't play minions. I did play 3 Massive Cthulhu that game. That was enough. The 30 damage was enough. And he had skulled into Kurt expendable Deadeye. But I never had minions in play with his face unfrozen, so it was enough.
I guess I'm just not able to play that many masks. Like, I can do 2. I have the 1, and then I have Varden, but that's it.
Oh, you don't play 2 masks? You gotta play 2 masks.
I play 2 masks.
You gotta play double mask. It's Pyroblasts are good.
Mask is so much damage.
And there are a lot of poison rogues out there right now. I should talk about my life and ladder. Okay, so first life, survived Spider-Man. It was okay. It was busy. Did some business. Survived it. It's okay. But I have this problem. And I wanted to tell you two first. I'm addicted to Alterac Standard. I'm so addicted. I have played so many games. I can't stop. There's everything that's been going on. The main thing that I've been doing is refining, experimenting with, I call it Zoom H. It's a really, really minion-dense Wildfire Mage deck. And listed on my Twitter, I updated it to include Arcane Overflow, but like we play Star Scryers and Firebrands and Wand Makers and Multicaster with Flurry just to activate it quickly. I actually cut the Mana Feeder Pantharis for Frostweave Dungeoneers. Sometimes you hit the Frost spell, and it's totally a crazy high roll. We just kind of shove people off the board, but we're not quite fast enough for the off-board stuff. Again, it is fun. I think it's close to good enough, but not quite good enough, but not embarrassing. I expect when it pops up on HSR, we're looking at the high 40s in the win rate. Okay, it's fine. But yeah, the Mozaki Mage matchup is bad. The Garrote Rogue matchup is not great either. We cut the defensive stuff. There are some other lists I was trying out that had the Harpy for some armor, Arcanologist, and Ice Barrier. Good for slowing the game down, but we don't want to do that. We want to kill them faster, because the games I found myself winning were just shoving people off the board. And this deck takes really good advantage of both Little Dawn Grasp and Hero Dawn Grasp. And let me tell you, Arcane Overflow, that's the 5-mana spell, deals 8 to a minion. Any excess damage makes an elemental with stats equal to the excess. So like you kill a 4/4, you kill a 4 health minion, you get a 4/4. It only targets enemies. So when you Dawn Grasp, you usually get a Mask, a Wildfire, a Flurry, and an Overflow. The order can screw you up sometimes. But you kill something and get stats, freeze stuff, shoot 10 little pings, and upgrade your Wildfire, and your hero power gets out of control real quick. Once you get Dawngrass down, that hero power will hit like 4 damage, 5 damage, 6 damage. And then you start doing things like Reckless Apprentice for 6 damage pings. Pretty silly. Pretty silly things. The first day I was playing this, I used it to clear a board of a Quest Paladin, because Alterac Standard is fantastic, because that's what happens. I played another deck earlier today. It is a Guff Druid, I'm going to call it. Celestial alignment, except no Celestials. It plays double Abominable Lieutenant for some reason, the 3/5 that eats things at the end of turn. I haven't found this to be great. The deck is only okay, but like I've won some games by out-armoring Garrote, because, you know, when I gain 32 armor, they can't usually beat that. Solar Celestial, Solar Cenarian Word twice. Right. Not to mention it plays Moon-Touched Amulet, and so that's it. If you corrupt it, it gains you more armor. And Guff Hero, it's, you know, I healed up to I think I healed up to 50, and they had used one of their steps and one of their aug merchants, and so they weren't able to do enough, and I survived, and I killed them. You can do all this stuff. There are lots of things that you can do. There's so many different strategies being explored. There are some from hand strategies that are still quite good from before the patch. Most of them are bad, right? Like Owl TK is dead. Completely gone. Not a thing. The Octobot nerf is relevant, but it's not enough to kill Garrote. Garrote's still good. Still quite good. But it's worse, but it's still good enough. Mozaki Mage exists because the other combo decks got nerfed. Celestial's gone. And OTK Il'gynoth DH, I'm not convinced by, but I have seen it a couple times, but it's a lot worse. It's a lot worse. So they did meaningfully slow down the format. Trog is still fine, but not actually that great. I still think aggressive strategies are struggling a little bit, except for Face Hunter. That deck's just fine. That deck's really, really, really good right now still. One of the better decks in the format, but it feels like there's so much to explore and so much interesting stuff, but the old decks are still good too, that it just feels very refreshing, and there's been a history of the Christmas patches not always leading to the healthiest metagames. This time I can safely say this is pretty good. For what we're going to have for the next few weeks, I'm pretty happy with this. And then we should get a patch in January as well.
I hope so, because there's a little part of me that's worried people are going to get fed up with having fun and just play Mozaki Mage and Garrote Rogue, and then I'm going to have a bad time. But for now, it feels pretty good. I have been trying another hero power deck, Quest Hunter, but with the hero. Because now that it's only 2 mana, even if you don't get the free hero power for your hero, paying 2 mana and refreshing that hero power is just fine.
5 animal companions a turn, yeah.
Certain matchups you don't want to do it, but other matchups you just, you double Huffer Leok and you get them.
Okay. I thought you were crazy, but I'm thinking about what it would feel like to animal companion 5 times in one turn. I'm kind of here for it. I'm kind of okay with that. If we end up in a matchup,
animal companion 5 times in a turn
with the Tavish hero power, with the quest.
Yeah, cost 2. You have to pay mana to play spells.
Oh, yeah, refresh with the spells. Yeah, that's right.
You have to play spells.
Those times.
3 times is reasonable. Like 3 is reasonable. 5 times I'm kind of
no. I forgot that you have to play the spells to refresh it. Yeah, no, that's
that's
unlikely.
Yeah, and also I do want to say, we kept talking over this, but I wanted to come back to this. These firebrands seem very suspect in this deck here. I'm just gonna say
we have
Wand
like
Maker
6 spells. We have 8 spells, but we have Wand Maker and Dungeoneer and Wand Thief as well.
You have more than So yeah, you have 6 spells that cost 1 that can actually cost a reasonable amount of mana.
Yeah.
Like you can't tell me Firebrand Mask of Cthulhu is a combo. That's not a combo. That doesn't count.
It doesn't.
Firebrand Arcane Overflow doesn't count either.
With 6 cheap ways to either get or make spells, they've been consistent enough. No, it's not the sort of thing you can always depend on turn 3. You just fire them out there, but it's consistent enough. You can just play them. You can just cast them on turn 3. Yeah.
You do have coin in half the games. I'm just saying it looks very suspect when I look at your list here.
I mean, it's a work in progress list.
In my list, it is very consistent because I've got Brain Freeze, Devolving Missiles, Wildfire, and Wand Maker. So
yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Hat has
Wait, that's the
Flurry,
same
Wildfire, and Wand Maker.
So
she has just running 4 extra 1 mana cards. What do you mean?
Wait, so you're running Brain Freeze Overflurry, right?
Yes.
Same number.
Oh, Overflurry.
But devolving instead of Overflow.
Yeah, I mean, if you go Firebrand and Coin Overflow, you're fine. Or you can Sork the Firebrand into the Overflow. It's obviously worse when you have a 5-mana spell instead of a 1-mana one. Arcane Overflow is insane. You really want that card. But with the Wand Maker and the Wand Thief and the Dungeoneer, it's not hard to activate it if you need to. And early board matchups were usually pretty good against anyways. It's the later game stuff that really struggles. Because we're not quite fast enough to pressure.
Both of you are really sus right now. That's all I'm going to say. Both of you are sus.
I've got 8 activators, and I
I'm not the one that can talk about standard though, so you should pretty much just ignore my opinion about everything anyway. So
I mean,
loved
I described the
evolving
deck as
into
a high
Paladin.
40% win rate, so like, it's yes, there is some suspicion here.
all right, fair enough.
Okay,
But
we've just been talking about standard.
back-
Should we talk about standard? No, go ahead. Go.
I want to let Elias finish her point.
Yes.
Regarding the animal companion thing, you can sometimes do a thing where you like play Bloodseeker on 2 and use like a Spring the Trap early, and you sort of bide your time, just weave in the hero powers, and so you actually play Tavish while you have only cast 3 damage spells. And so then you get the next stage of the quest to reduce it to 0. And those are the games where you get the 0 mana refreshable animal companion hero power, and you get to go all in on your animal companions.
It's that sounds enjoyable, if a little unrealistic. By the way, there is a really gross Secret Hunter deck. I'm not sure if you've seen it, with the Dunbalder Bunker and Drekthar, where it's Drekthar and the only minions in the deck are double Injured Blade Master and Mukla. And then you just play a bunch of secrets and Tavish. It's gross. I tried a little bit. It was good enough that I had to delete the deck because I didn't want to play any more of it. Because I kept
Hunter
barnsing
makes its
people.
return.
Yeah, it felt gross. Anyways, let's talk about standard more in the next section instead of in this section.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
Okay, so last week I proclaimed that I thought that there did not need to be any nerfs because I didn't want them to ruin the holidays and give us a bad standard. But instead, they decided to nerf and buff everything, basically. Everything got nerfed and buffed, and here we are. So we'll go over the nerfs first. So Celestial Alignment went from 7 mana to 8 mana. Alliance Bannerman from a 2/2 down to a 2/1. Efficient Octobot from a 2 mana card to a 3 mana card. Snowfall Guardian from 5 cost to 6 cost. Touch of the Nathrazim, deal 2 damage, restore 4, to now deal 2 damage, restore 3. Rune Mithril Rod up to 5 mana. Bloodsteel Deckhand back down to a 2/1. Iron Deep Trog now summons another Iron Deep Trog. And then Mo Artificer from a 2 mana 2/4 to a 3 mana 2/5. All right. Everybody
Trog
says
nerf.
I'm the prophet. I mean, everybody says I'm a prophet, but look how many nerfs I missed. Like, I got one kind of right, and they didn't listen on any of the other ones about,
I mean,
you know.
You got the Trog one exactly right.
And it's a
I
text
got-
box
I
nerf.
got lucky.
It's like, no, you did
Yeah.
not. You made a good suggestion. They probably heard you and were like, that Bodicus is smart and handsome. Let's do that.
I doubt that. They might have heard me, but I doubt they were like, oh, that sounds smart. They're probably like, yeah, duh, that's what we're going to do.
I don't
But
know.
maybe,
So-
yeah.
Curiously, I'm actually not sure how I feel about that one. I do wonder if I might have liked it better as Trog to 2, which changes its role as, playing against quests, but maintains its role as anti-spell tech. Because one of the things I was starting to do when I faced turn 1 Trogs pre-nerf was play my Wind Chills then, before it got any buffs, so that at least I could get my card draw in before I was going to be locked out of spells by it getting buffed by Paladin or Hunter kind of stuff. This one, you kind of don't care. Like, as long as you deal with the one that is buffed and you just give them 1/2s, it's not a big deal. It's still a big deal against Druid, because if they're an aggro Druid, you don't want to give them more minions in play. For them specifically, the number of minions in play is the key. But against Hunter and Paladin, I kind of think Paladin maybe doesn't even want to run Trog anymore because you can do better things. For them, it was really all about the disincentivizing playing any spells because you would get more big stuff and they would die. And now it doesn't work that way, so I'm not sure it's right. It's still good enough in Hunter because that's just a very face deck, but I feel like it should probably come out of Paladins. And I think in general, it's a lot less hard of a tech into the spell heavy decks, combo decks.
So, looking at the stats right now for Libram Paladin, Iron Deep Trog is the 6th best card in the mulligan, still above the average win
All
rate.
right, I'm wrong.
It is only a slightly worse keep than Lightforged Cariel, which we'll talk about later, about how she's still 7 mana. But Trog is... I had the exact same thought process as you, and that's probably why this nerf happened the way it did, because this is a nerf to Paladin Hunter. This is not a nerf to Trog, it's a nerf to Paladin Hunter. Because it's still good in Druid. But it's also a nerf to Blessed Priest, but I don't think that we need that deck being a thing. Priest players may disagree, but it doesn't even feel that Priest. But yeah, like, I expected the same thing, and then I looked at the stats, and I talked to people about it, and there were still people that were losing to it as a bunch of 1-2s. I lost to a bunch of 1-2s today, because their buffs never whiff. They never have a board that just, like, is empty. You still have to kill it pretty quickly. And giving them a bunch of free 1-2s, that's still annoying. Like, if you trigger it one time, it's a Wolpertinger with double the health. That's really good. It's good by itself. And Paladin wants 1-drops because the weakest part of the game is the early game where you can just play Aggro Druid and just shove them off the board. Or you can play, Zoo Ping Mage, of course, and just shove them off the board. And so Trog is annoying enough to be good enough there, but I thought the same thing looking at it. It seemed like Trog got a more heavy-handed nerf. But these nerfs, I think these nerfs are pretty clever. Because you look at all these nerfs. Go ahead.
I'm happy with where it lands because it felt like there were a lot of situations where they play a Trog and then you have to concede the game, whereas now it's they play a Trog and you have to figure out how to not lose the game. And I think that's a much better spot for the card to be, because like there were just so many situations I felt like where unless I had a silence, which I only got because I was like you only really get that in Priest that was playing an AoE silence. You kind of got a similar effect if you were playing it in Shaman and Mage, and then everybody else is just kind of SOL if they're trying to play any spells against the Iron Deep Trog, and you just like, okay, if I don't draw it in a turn, I just have to concede the game because I don't get to play the game anymore. Whereas now it's like, okay, is it better for me to give them an extra 1-2, or is it better for me to hold the spell now? Like, it feels like there's meaningful decisions, which I think is the point of the card, instead of just I played this in the right situation, now my opponent just auto loses.
Yeah.
So I'm happy, but we'll obviously see where it ends up. I mean, it being good in specific, like, go wide decks, I think is better for the card than just put this into any deck that doesn't want to lose to spells. Like, I don't know. I like that, personally, but...
Yeah. You look at all of these nerfs together, there are some changes that people have been confused by at first, or at least they were before they played against the cards. In particular, Bannerman and Deckhand losing 1 health on those cards. Playing against them, the difference was immediately obvious. Like, really, really obvious really quickly as to how big of a deal the second point of health is on these cards, on a 1 mana 2/2 versus a 1 mana 2/1, and a 3 mana 2/1 versus 3 mana 2/2. But also, we've covered this a couple times. I talked about this in the Angry Chicken earlier this week. I'm going to repeat myself, but I don't care. I liked what I said then, and I'm going to say it again. If you make cards worse, but they're still good cards that you want in your deck, but sometimes you have situations where you would have won before because of it, and you lose now because they play a Claw Furry Adept and kill your thing, whereas before you would just get the value trade. But you still keep the Deckhand in your deck, you still keep the Bannerman in your deck. That's a good nerf. You keep the same deck, you bring it down, you don't kill it. If the deck is at 60% win rate, and you take a health off something and make it to 59. No, obviously that's not the way to go. But that's not what we're dealing with here. There are no 60% win rate decks in Standard. We just want Paladin to get a little bit more fair. Take a health off, and nerf Trog. That's 2 nerfs to Paladin. For Warrior, they did a softer nerf, really just Deckhand. And the dev notes say Questline Warrior ended up slightly stronger than intended. Wouldn't be surprised if that's still the case, that they find that it's still the case now. It feels, hair over the line, and pretty straightforward in terms of how it plays out most games. The comments that we got last night about Quest games feeling samey, I actually think Quest Warrior is more of that than any other Quest deck we played against, including Old Mage. But they moved the health down. The 2-1s just die now. They just died of all sorts of stuff. They died of 1-3s. They died of 1 damage pings, which I've been doing a lot of lately for some reason. It's just so much easier to take them off the board. So you look at the collection of these stat nerfs. You look at the change in making the mana cheating more expensive, making the removal less efficient, making the minions less efficient, and making anti-minion stuff just cost, like Snowfall Guardian costing more. Everything here was designed to give you more agency as an early game minion deck to get on the board and stay there and not get punished for playing for board, or to not have that window close turn 4, turn 5, right? I was playing Aggro Druid before the nerf. My opponent went Coin Shroud, or turn 2 Octobot. I think they had Prep to Shroud on 1. Yeah, Prep to Shroud on 1, turn 2 Octobot. I had 5 minions in play. They went Shroud, trade with the ping with the Octobot, kill all 5 of your minions. All 5 in turn 3. Too efficient. But now, you have to coin out the Octobot. When you Shadow Step the Octobot, it costs 1, not 0. You can't just have a full, you can't go contact, Octo, ping it, 0 mana left, play 6 cards or whatever, Shadow Step the Octo, replay it, ping it again. You can't do that anymore. Your turn is over. So it's just a little bit harder there. You have this window in the early game that was so narrow for decks to get anything going. You would either get Trogged out, or you get Coin Guardian into Bird, or you get Octobot into whatever, or you get Coin Rod into Backfire. All these things that would keep your minions from working. You'd get Overgrowth and Celestials. Make those slow enough, and then pull back the anti-minion minion strategies. The Warrior deck that's really good at killing your minions after it gets a few turns to set up. The Paladin deck that's really good at killing your minions after it gets a few turns to set up. Make those worse too. So when you play your early game minion decks, you have a chance, you have a minute to get going. And it's mostly worked. There are just a couple things that are still too good. They may have forgotten that they printed a 7 mana Vanish that gives a free prep every turn, a bunch of 4/2s. That's not great for minion decks. There's still, Mozaki Mage is not a minion thing, but it still kind of sets the rule for how slow or how fast you can be in a format. And there's still some stuff going on where, if you want to avoid all from hand pressure, that's not gone. Poison Rogue is unpleasantly good right now. I've seen a lot of it, and it's unpleasantly good, and I wish that was worse. But still pretty happy with where they went with these overall. There were some really gnarly play patterns that they dealt with. It's a really good effort, and it has had meaningful results. It's just not all the way quite where I want it quite yet, but they seem to identify how they're going to get there. And I think, I don't have a source for this, I was looking for this, but apparently the devs stated that now is the time for hero cards, even if they didn't say it. Even if they didn't explicitly say that hero cards are supposed to be good right now. When you buff 2 hero cards and nerf 0, you're saying your new legendary is going to be good right now. I think all of them are playable right now. What's the worst one now? Zyrella, probably? Probably Zyrella? Or Rikara.
Maybe.
Rikara's the worst. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
And she's fine. I've played
Only
against her
because
and
Warrior,
got...
only because Quest Warrior is so good, though.
But Quest Warrior, I played against a Quest Warrior that played it and they killed me with it.
Yeah.
It's... They just hit me once
it
and
could
hero
belong
powered
in
me
that-
and I was just dead.
Could belong in the deck.
Yeah.
That's
that
one
deck's
thing. Please,
Yeah.
please take Smite out of the Juggernaut pool, please.
Oh,
Yeah.
Spite and Gorehowl.
I literally had to stop playing Quest Priest because of Smite coming out of Juggernaut, because you just take so many turns. They get so many turns.
Yeah.
You have to give them so many turns, and you just they're gonna get it eventually.
Yeah, there's still some rough edges in the format, right? And there are some play patterns that really stand out. It's, the Smite rolls are definitely up there, really, in general, once Juggernaut gets going. I think we said after they did the first round of buffs, after playing it, that these mirrors are going to be really unpleasant, and that the experience of just dealing with the boat turn after turn, at least with something like Quest Mage or Quest Demon Hunter or whatever, it just kills you, and you're like, all right, I can go now. Warrior, you have this feeling of maybe they low roll and they have a chance. You probably don't. You probably don't. Because also the free damage from the boat the free cannonballs matter so much. Even if you just kill all their stuff and freeze the board or whatever, they just hit you with the balls. It's just, I don't know.
And they also get, Gore Hell is also something that comes out of the Juggernaut.
Blacksmithing
sometimes.
Hammer, and they can just play the Smite along with whatever pirate they get, which is usually the 4/6, whatever. It's, I think Standard's really fun right now. Really great for a couple weeks in. Really good for Christmas patch. Has some rough edges. Still some things to work on. But overall, you look at what they were trying to do with this patch. It makes a lot of sense. And they were mostly successful. Not completely, but mostly. And there's a huge variety in what you can play in Standard right now. And some new strategies being explored. So I don't know. Edelweiss, you've been streaming a lot of it. How do you feel about the format?
Yeah, I like it a lot. Again, I'm not thrilled about Mozaki Mage. And I've still seen some alignments. You were saying alignment is dead. I don't know. I guess remains to be seen. Even outside of alignment, I've never been a fan of the whole Druid ramp thing. There was a while when I first came to Philly where every tournament, I banned Druid off of everyone because I just hated playing into ramp stuff. It may not have always been right, but I think based on the time period, that was probably correct. That was spreading plague times, but I just don't feel great when they ramp into all this crazy stuff and then the amount of armor gain, as you mentioned, that they can get with solar plus stuff. Kibler's had this deck that I at least appreciate how cool this deck is. You complete the Cthulhu stuff, and then once it's shuffled into your deck, you use the
Moonlit Guidance, which is a sweet card.
Guidance to pull it out, and you play it that turn because you're over 20 mana, and so you get another copy. So if you're really you're at 20 mana and you just Moonlit Guidance, Lightning Bloom, you can play both. That's generally not necessary. Usually it's good enough to just Moonlit Guidance, play one of them. You have another one in reserve just in case. It's interesting.
I was playing Wild earlier this week. I was able to Dirty Rat out 3 of their Cthunes, but they killed me with the 4th one.
Yikes.
Yeah, the old Solar Eclipse Moonlit Guidance for 2 Cthunes. Then they also did the guidance for the 3rd one. I had Boom Pistol Bully so they could only play 1 a turn. They did end up playing 1. I survived it. I Dirty Ratted out the other 2, and then they killed me with the 4th one. Yeah. Too many Cthunes. It's too many. I wouldn't play around the 4th one. I don't know what I'm supposed to do there.
This is not what I expected to happen from this deck, but turns out Guff is pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, speaking of Wild, did you play against any time warping Grey Sage parrots?
I didn't.
The Grey Sage parrot costs.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Now.
It's
yeah.
I played some Wild because I was doing well enough in Standard. I was in top 100 and I was chilling for a second and I didn't want to, I was waiting for the patch. So I tried out a bunch of stuff like I wanted to get some DH wins. That didn't go super well. But I played some of the Freeze Shaman in Wild, and you freeze their board, really, really good against Pirate Warrior, because you just freeze their boards 3 turns in a row and then you kill them. So the Juggernaut just doesn't matter. But format, Wild... I think Wild is doing what it's supposed to do right now, but what it is designed to become is not a fun thing. But they shouldn't balance it because that's not Wild is... Yeah, for me. Some people are certainly enjoying it still. But it's just... so ruthlessly efficient. And it's not a new development. This is what happens to non-rotating formats. So, I get that non-rotating formats get more powerful over time, and... I played for a couple days and I'm like, all right, I'm good for now. And I don't know how many people that's happening for, but I think there's opportunity for exploring different designs of Wild. I don't think that they can realistically balance it with the promises the format is built around, which is we don't mess with your cards. And I think that's a good promise. Just, it's between a rock and a hard place. But yeah, it's, how did I get here? What was I talking about? Someone
non-rotating formats.
No, before that. Chat, help me out. What was I doing? I was making a point.
I think it was Bot had mentioned playing Time Warps with Parrot.
Yes. But I did hear about the Parrot Mage, and that sounds goofy. Deck Tech loves that deck. He
Of course
loves
he
that
does.
deck. Yeah.
Everything he loves got nerfed.
Well, usually he's the canary, or in this case, the parrot in the coal mine, because he also loves Turtle Mage, which means if Deck Tech likes a deck, probably don't let it stick around.
Wow.
He'll always find something new. It's okay.
That's
We didn't talk about the buffs.
unfortunate.
Do you want to talk about the buffs
Yeah.
too?
Well,
Unless we have
did
any more
just
feelings
talk
on the
about
nerfs.
Parrot.
Yeah.
No, I hope that at one point they try the idea of making cards that reduce other cards not be able to reduce cards below 0. That's what I hope they try. Instead of Octobot going to 3 mana, maybe say reduce cards in your hand by 1 but not less than 1. And same
having
with,
that printed on the card would, I think, be appropriate. Yeah.
Same with Rune Mithril Rod, and yeah, I think that will be an interesting way to try some nerfs once and see how it feels. But I mean, they do that. They basically did that in duels.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can still do some crazy stuff with those things. I got a 12-win mage run in duels because the legendary quest had you play duels, and I was like, oh yeah, this is actually a cool format. And I played Open the Waygate Mage, and I got the treasure that says every time you cast an arcane spell, reduce the cost of a spell in your hand by 1, but not to less than 1. And I got the orb that says whenever you discover a spell, reduce the cost of all your spells by 1, but not less than 2. And I still got to do crazy stuff. But it was a bit less crazy.
Yeah. I preferred it when they were all 1 because it still felt like you were doing powerful things, but yeah, I mean, you can just mess with stuff like that and see how it works out. But anyway, well, let's talk about some buffs. So we already talked about Grey Sage Parrot. Went from a 6/6 to a 4/5, but now costs 2 less, which is a whole lot less. Beaststalker Tavish, we also kind of talked about briefly. The old hero power cost 3 mana, and now it costs 2 mana. Edelweiss saying that has been a fairly significant upgrade. Speaking of upgraded heroes, Magister Dawn Grasp went from 8 cost down to 7 cost, as well as the hero power getting a change from deal 1 damage honorable kill gain 2 to 2 damage honorable kill gain 2 damage. And the Wildfire, the old ability would increase the damage by the hero power by 1, and new increase the damage of your hero power by 1. So now it affects Magister Dawn Grasp is what I assume this is all about. So with all these changes, been seeing a lot of hero power mages recently, a lot more of those, and haven't seen a whole lot of Beaststalker Tavish, but I thought that was a pretty cool hero. I actually have seen 1 or 2 of them though, and those improved traps or improved secrets are some good. They are pretty solid.
Yeah, they have serious potential to just blow you out of nowhere. Like if you're playing a minion deck and you take the Open the Cages, summons 2 animal companions, sometimes that just kills you. Similarly, the improved pack tactics can be quite good. What I think it really surprises people and is maybe a bit of an edge that won't last as people encounter it more is the fact that if you have a regular trap, you can still get the improved version from Tavish. So you can have an explosive in play, and then Tavish can discover you an improved explosive, and so they attack into you and all their stuff takes 5. I think people don't expect that sometimes if they've been playing around a particular trap for a while and they know what it is. They also trigger separately. So if you have a regular freezing trap and an improved freezing trap, and you play the regular one first, they attack. Well, you had to have played it first. I'm pretty sure if you have the improved, you can't get the regular one in play. It's kind of weird, but
Wait, so how does that work? Because they're supposed to be just separate. Shouldn't be related at all.
okay. I don't know. Maybe it's just a spring the trap thing. What I was noticing is it seemed like you wouldn't get a regular
Hmm.
freezing trap if, say, you had an improved one in play from Spring the Trap.
Might be a bug with Spring the Trap.
Could be, but at any rate, if you have the regular one in play and they attack and the minion gets bounced, the improved one hasn't activated, and so people might get baited into thinking, okay, well, we checked for freezing, and then they attacked with something and they get improved freezing trapped. So it'll be a learning curve for people to figure out how that stuff works, that they've checked for the regular secrets but not necessarily for the improved ones. But it's pretty powerful, and yeah, I think improved freezing makes it cost 4 more, which is insane. That makes a lot of stuff just completely unplayable. And then Ice Trap making the spell cost 2 more, more reasonable, but still pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely a better card. I have seen and lost to the full Secret Hunter deck. Drekthar is a gross card, so that's really what's going on there. But Tavish is just a lot better now, and there are various big Hunter or Death Rattle Hunter decks. I know Hatrick has been doing well with a Death Rattle build, a Rat King deck, where you just use Ram into Mountain Bear, and then you Tavish and get improved pack tactics on the Mountain Bear, and then that's just a lot of Void Lords. So it's doable. I've played some of it. Deck's not bad. Something there. Yeah. So no, I'm pretty happy about this, and Mage really needed a lot of love, and it is so refreshing to play Minions and Mage again, and there are some good ones there too. The deck isn't quite lethal enough quickly enough, and the play patterns are a little bit too prescribed. It's a little bit too easy to anticipate. I noticed that over the past day as the archetypes got more popular. People know when your Masks are coming. People know when your Reckless Apprentices are coming. It is not too hard for people to respond because your pieces that are important, you have to set up Mask into Dawn Grasp, into Mordrish. And so that's a good curve, but when you know what's coming, it's a little different. Well, except for Mordrish. You can't really anticipate Mordrish. It's just like you make peace with when your board is going to vanish. It's just a question of, is he active or not, and does my opponent have him or not? But if you have an active Mordrish on turn 8, you probably win that game, because he's pretty stupid. But yeah, happy with it. We got some BG changes too.
Yes, we got a few BG changes. So Sneed finally got the nerf that he deserved. Went from a 1-cost hero power to a 2-cost hero power, and with this change also got moved up from getting 0 armor at the start of the game to getting anywhere between 2 and 5 armor at the start of the game. Because doubling the mana cost on a hero power in BGs is brutal. We also got a buff to Tamsin, where the hero, or I guess it could go either way with this, because the hero power went from 0 mana, destroy your lowest health minion, give its health to all others. Now destroy your lowest health minion, give its stats to all others, but it costs 1 now. So a bit of a cost increase for that. And then there were some changes to a couple of the minions. So the prized promo Drake went from a 5/5 to a 3/3, losing quite a bit of stats. And then Dazzling Light Spawn went from a 4/5 to a 2/5, which unfortunately I just have not been playing enough Battlegrounds lately to really know why these cards got affected. But I'm assuming that they just wanted to reel back in dragons and elementals a little bit.
Yeah. I have heard that Terragosa is kind of the terror of BGs, and while I don't know how true that is because I haven't played a bunch, I'm kind of curious why they didn't nerf it. Or at least I was, until I looked up a tweet by one Cora, who works in the Hearthstone team, on the BGs especially. With the next BG's content drop coming relatively soon, we didn't want to make any more substantial changes, didn't have time to test anything that was bigger than just stat changes. This means the 0.2 patch, which is usually the BG's content patch, probably our January patch, because that's usually what happens is a month after launch. So I would guess the second weekish of January probably have some BG's content. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, hopefully the next the next update they go with goes a little bit better than the Diablo update. That's all I will hope for. Um, looks like we also have a little update on mercenaries. So all heroic level 30 bounties will now include at least one pile of legendary coins, chosen from a selection of coins designated for each bounty as part of their bounty completion rewards. Now, I want to say that I saw a Reddit post, so take this with a grain of salt, but the Reddit post said that this was a nerf to something, and I did not read any more into it. So was the person just spouting nonsense, or is this a nerf to something?
This sure seems like it makes
Or
it
is it
easier
a
to
buff?
farm legendary coins.
Yeah, I don't see why this would ever be a negative.
Okay.
But it's
Why don't I have both
know.
of you finish off, and I'm gonna check real quick. I'm gonna scan the Reddit post real
Okay.
quick because it was just
Alright.
there.
Scan away. So, and Reksham is saying in chat it's a nerf to the highest level heroic bounties. I admit that I don't know why, and I admit that since Alterac has come out, I haven't done anything except play a lot of standard, except for a little bit of wild, because the constructed formats are so good, and also work is more demanding, but just like the draw to make sure I get my mercs dailies done every day kind of dried up for now. I'm looking forward to more changes to the mode, which is probably coming a little bit. Oh,
I think I understand it.
Okay, tell me.
So you get more coins in general for doing heroic ones, and a lot of the more recent heroic bounties give coins for new mercs in general. So like, Cookie or Vanessa or whatever, not all of whom are legendaries. So if you were farming those specific ones, you could get a higher number of coins for those new mercs. Now it's guaranteed one of them is going to be for the legendary that's marked for that bounty. And I think when I did one, it gave 15 for that legendary, which I feel like usually for heroics it's like 20, 25 in. It still feels like it's challenge, like it's weird to say that it would be a nerf in any form. I think for most cases it's still just better because you can more reliably say, hey, I want these legendary coins, so I'm going to do this mission on heroic, so I will get those legendary coins because I want to farm Edwin or I want to farm Valera, etc. And at least one of the 5 of your little treasure chests for completing the bounty will be for that legendary mercenary. I guess I see how in some instances, if you were trying to farm certain other coins on heroic for particular bounty, it could give you fewer. But gosh, that's really digging deep to find something to complain about.
Yeah. So Rek in chat is saying that that it's just a smaller quantity of coins, that heroic used to give more and now they give the same amount for all piles.
I didn't notice that. I guess for maybe if they changed the more in general, it seemed to me like I still got more for the non-legendary coins, but the legendary coins were lower, so that was weird. But I guess that could be sort of what I was seeing and I was misinterpreting.
Well, that's why I gave my qualifier before I said anything, because it's Reddit and who knows how right they are about things. But it sounds like in very specific cases, it is it could be seen as a nerf, but it doesn't sound like, unless we get more information about it later, that it is the most impactful of negative effect. Hopefully, overall, it's just better for people. That's all I hope, and I'm sure that if it's not, then they'll probably adjust some things and make it at least as good as it was.
I mean, the fastest way to get coins is still just to max out the tasks on that particular mercenary. That's what's going to give you the most coins for them. And then if you need some more, you can do the corresponding bounty to get their coins. But I find that it's still most efficient to just do all the tasks for the mercenary you want coins for, because it gives you the coins in larger chunks.
But that's pretty much it for patch 22.02. However, I thought you went over those. Okay, so in Arena, there is no more abominable lieutenant in there. That's the 3/5 that eats a minion at the end of turn. I could see this that card gets out of hand real quick in an Arena. And also, the Drekthar and Vandar refunds are now live. So if you are not playing decks that include Drekthar and Vandar, and you have opened one of them, you can now disenchant and get a full dust refund. And I suggest doing that.
Yeah.
But if you're playing the card or you don't care, then it's not very relevant information to you, I guess.
I just finished the Alterac yesterday, so I'm just gonna grab my 1600 dust.
I got 3,200. It was great.
Oh, we can dust both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. Hey everyone, go get your dust. Come get your dust. Free dust for everyone. Come get your dust.
Oh, that's
gonna
right. You disenchanted your Drekthar. Or you got rid of your Hunter deck. I was gonna say, weren't you just playing a deck that played
No, you
Drekthar?
dust the normal version. You get the refund in the normal version. I have both golds. Because the golds are the uncraftable. So I have the regulars of both. So I'm just gonna go get my free dust.
Yep.
Yeah. Might as well do that.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it for that patch. We'll go. That took quite a long time, so we'll kind of speed up through these next two. Winter Veil is upon us. There is a legendary quest line that most of you, if you have logged in, have seen. That as you complete the quests, you get a free pack. Either basically, you will get a total of 6 packs, 2 total from Fractured and Alterac Valley, 1 standard pack. Or no, I guess it's 3 of each then. 3 of each Fractured and Alterac Valley and standard packs, which are quite nice to get and do not take a ton of effort to get them done. There are 2 Tavern Brawls that are returning for Winter's Veil. We have the Gift Exchange Tavern Brawl with all the presents and stuff falling from the sky, which is a classic that I'm sure a lot of us have played. And then the next week there is going to be Great Father Kobold is going to deliver some presents in Wacky Waxy Winter Veil Brawl.
These are both repeats. They're fun, but they're annual repeats. The first one is the Warlock Brawl. I forget what the second one is, but the first one, just play Warlock. Play all the cards that eat your own stuff. Play your Power Overwhelmings. Play your what's the Grim Rallies. Play your Grimoires. Eat your presents. Eat them. Yeah, they're fun. And there's a free snowman skin. Go get it. It's free. But
free snowman thrall.
The thing that upsets me the most about it is this last point here. Do you see what the last point is?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'll let you cover it.
We received an update from the front after the first skirmishes in Alterac Valley. Based on information through December 14th, the battle for Alterac Valley has been fierce and hotly contested. Both sides have fought with honor, with each faction already amassing over 1 billion honor. But the Alliance has taken an early lead. What? What? Alliance? This cannot stand.
Unacceptable.
I refuse to accept it.
I'm continuously surprised how many people I play against that are playing Alliance.
I don't want a Diamond Vandar. I want a Drexar.
I don't care either way.
Well, I'm gonna go beat up some Alliance players, gonna see what I can do.
I think it's funny because in terms of vocally and like on Twitter and all that kind of stuff, I was worried, oh gosh, everyone picked Horde. How am I, like, I had to pick Horde because of the Horde, but usually I'm on the hipster side of things. Apparently I am, I just didn't know because vocal minority, if Alliance is truly ahead.
I wonder how close it actually is.
By the way, listeners, I'm assuming that Alliance is ahead because they have more people. Not because I think for a moment that they're better players.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, maybe. Maybe just everybody chose Alliance because they saw Vandar reduced cost of cards in hand, and anytime you see cost reduction on a card, it's a cause for concern.
I mean, my sneaking suspicion is that when you broadcast choosing a side to a large player base, of which many are probably not tuned into World of Warcraft stuff, they're just like, well, I'm going to choose the good guys because the Alliance looks like the good guys in terms of design.
I don't know. Either way, we'll see what happens in the end. I don't really have a stake in the game, but hopefully for Hat's sake, we all get the Horde rally back. Lastly, for news this week, we have Great Father Winter was giving out stream gifts to a bunch of streamers, and not just like the standard top of the list Hearthstone streamers. So some people that got some big sub bombs were Happa Bear, Get Meowth, D Money, Jombre, Sunglitters, Theiss, Regis, and Kibler.
It's nice to see variety there, right? Like, it's, yeah. Yeah, it was a really nice social media campaign. The new Hearthstone social media manager, digital marketing manager, did a really, really great job there. And I forget her name, but I looked her up on Twitter. She worked well with Allie. Of course, everybody does. Yeah, it was really, really nice. So, that's the first half of the news for the week. But tournament section is really just more news. So I hope you are ready for that. We're not going to have time for explanations because we're an hour and 50 minutes in. We have to talk about esports. So strap in. Here we go.
It's the grand tournament!
All right. Talking about Worlds. Worlds was cool. I understand that there have been concerns about the decks being very OTK-ish, a lot of from-hand stuff. Yeah, that's how this Conquest line is going to work. It's too soon after the set release, and Garrote was too strong, so was Garrote in 2 decks that beat Garrote and then a 4th deck, except for Glory, who made it to the finals without bringing it, because he recognized how to play against it. But Possessi beat Glory in All Japan finals. The games were enjoyable and engaging to watch from the perspective of watching competitive players maximize the decks and strategies available to them. Also, from the perspective of watching Gabby jam. It's, very animated young man. But yeah, there were some good games played. Like, I really enjoyed watching, Team McBannerface put up a really good fight, made it to the top 4. But the Garrote Mirror, the 5-mana Scabs, Neophyte, 5-mana Scabs, Hero Power, Neophyte again was too much. But, there were a bunch of really interesting games and draws that it was a good time to watch, and now I'm glad that they made some changes to the decks that we're going to see. But it was well produced. I want to give a shout out, Darrock Brown, the APAC caster, because it was an APAC final, so it was him and GA casting. Darrock got diagnosed, got a positive COVID test on Friday, and did casting on Saturday and Sunday. Apparently, off camera, he was just a complete disaster, but you never know it watching the broadcast. So, super huge props to him. Much respect. And you can find the deck list in the show notes. There was a lot of Celestial Alignment, Garrote, and Glide. A lot of those things. So the lineups that were trying to target Garrote did the best. The lineups that were trying to not deal with it were not as great. I know that the players from the China server, Tianming and Xiaobai, both brought lineups that were clearly expecting a different field. They thought they were going to be able to ban Druid and get away with playing Mozaki Mage and Bolner Shaman, but those just weren't the right picks for this event. So it didn't end up working out. But that was Worlds. There was another tournament, by the way. Tice did a really fun tournament on his stream where he invited a bunch of people, including Cora was there. Who else was in that event? You probably watched some of this, Edel, right?
Yeah, Kibler, Cora, RDU and Tice cast. Thino was playing. Alutemu. Yeah, I don't remember.
Which tournament was the one where Gabby conceded on turn 1 because he thought that his opponent?
Oh, the Maester thing. Yeah.
miscued a deck. Was it this one or was it Worlds?
It was Worlds, I think.
Okay.
No, it was this one. It was against Bunny.
Oh, is this? Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. That makes more sense, I guess, because I thought
You got
if
fully
it's too weird
tricked.
for Maestro to be allowed.
Fully tricked by the Maestro deck.
Yeah. So it was a fun event, but there was definitely some misalignment of expectations. Some people brought some decks that were more memey, and some people didn't. And, you know, I know that there was some peanut gallery chatter about, oh, the OTK decks are OP. It's like, no, some people were playing things that were meant to be a little less competitive, and some people were playing things that were a little bit more competitive. So, you know, it was a fun event. It was 2 days after the nerfs. I am not surprised.
Also, like, Cora made the Xyrella hero. She's got to show off the Xyrella hero, right?
Yeah, I enjoyed watching her try, but it was those were not the decks for the field. It's yeah, but what we should talk about more is that in the middle of the World's broadcast, hey, they're changing esports, like a lot, like a whole lot. Edelweiss, we're going to talk about this. We got to talk about this. You probably have more feelings than me, and I have a lot of feelings. So, where do we start? Where do we start here? We start with GM is going away. That's, I think, the most important thing to start with. GM's going away. Abar, the new director, product manager, program manager, whatever the title is. Abar, the esports guy. Grandmasters doesn't align with their phase, with their what the program's trying to do. It doesn't create accessibility, and so they're just phasing it out. There's only going to be a 4-week-long Season 1. They're going to reduce to 16 players for Season 2, which will be a global region, 4 from each region, and 4 from Masters Tour. There will be some Worlds invites from the first season, 3 from the first, and 1 invite from the second. Basically, it's just a playoff bracket. And they're pulling back on GM significantly, and it's going to be gone by the end of the year. You know, like, just, this is it. So, instead, they're dramatically expanding the scope of esports in terms of accessibility. All the Masters Tours for 2022 are online only, but they are targeting in-person events for Fall Championship and the World Championship at the end of next year. That's why the events are all very front-loaded in the year, the first 6 months of the year. And then the second half of the year, they're hopefully going to have more opportunities for in-person events. They're at least leaving it on the table. The World Championship will be 16 players, double the amount that we had this past week with 8 players. Expand opportunities for players to reach the World Championship is the goal. There are 6 Master Tours and 2 Seasonal Championships, and from the Seasonal Championships, 8 players, 4 from each one, are going to the World Championship. So there's now a path from, I want to win an event and then be able to go to Worlds. You can do that in this new system. For Master Tour quals, there are 60 total qualifiers for each MT. The winners get the invite, top 50 win rate over 10 qualifiers. It's only over 3 total weekends. This is less qualifiers we have currently, and instead, top 50 on ladder makes it. Much bigger than the current top 16. it is going to be closer than it seems because there's no longer going to be GM invites for people that are doing well on ladder that already have invites, but still, top 50 is much, much more achievable than top 16. First 3 Masters Tours feed the first seasonal championship, the second 3 feed the second, the winner, and that's how you get into the Worlds. These are kind of like, there are these in-between championship events. It reminds me of HCT a little bit, where you would win the HCT seasonals and make it to the champs at the end. Like, you'd win the one-off tour stops and you'd make it to the seasonal events. Thoughts? Give me your initial reactions. What are you thinking so far?
So I'm glad to see GM go, and in particular for that reason you cited, that it felt like Worlds was just this completely unachievable thing because it was like you had to put in a year to go to Worlds next year to some extent. In terms of getting into GM is challenging in and of itself, having this, consistency over multiple Masters Tours, get into GM, and then you have to play through GM to get to Worlds. You couldn't really just go from, hey, I'm playing in this thing to try and go for Worlds this year. It was, no, I'm playing in this thing to try and get to GM to maybe make it to Worlds from GM. And my understanding is that GM was like a way to make a living on Hearthstone, but it wasn't a great living. And so it didn't even feel like it was that amazing a thing to have once you were in it, particularly if you were a streamer, and so it would cut into when you could stream potentially, and it worked really well for some people. I know folks from Latin American countries or anywhere with where the US dollar would go further, it was pretty good living, but in general it was pretty tough for a lot of folks. And for anyone on the outside, or for anyone who lost out, just so rough to be able to get back in. So I think on the whole, pretty happy to see GMs go. And I know from watching my teammates go for it that the ladder change is going to be very welcome, because it can be a huge struggle to try and get into top 16 on ladder for a month. Like, people used to fight for points to getting into top 200, with top 50 being the most coveted, right? It was a different number of HCT points for top 200, top 100, top 50, etc. This is effectively the same thing, because the most desirable points were in that top 50. So here it's just top 50 gets an invite, and I think that's great. And it relieves as well some of the pressure of, I'm playing in these qualifiers every weekend nonstop. Now, I hope that the way it's played out is that you've got qualifiers on the first 3 weeks of a month, and then no qualifier on the last week, because that's when everyone's grinding ladder. So that would give everyone sort of the best shot to be able to pick whatever method if they want to do both. But yeah, if you want to make a living playing card games, you still got to be a content creator. Like, that's how you make a living playing card games. It's not the same. I mean, honestly, in general for esports, it's going to be the most consistent thing. The prize pools are bigger for team things like League of Legends or any of the FPSs. They're in those, you've got teams that give pay and all kinds of other things because of the huge prize pools. But it's still better to just be a content creator in terms of consistency.
Yep. Monsanto had a tweet that I think was interesting, and it's worth noting, a lot of people are happy about this. You know who's not happy about it? The current GMs. Let's make sure we call a spade here. The people that were getting the paycheck are unhappy they're not anymore. And I'm not saying their reaction is invalid. They got fired. Like, that sucks. So, Monsanto had a tweet that I think is worth thinking about. Said that instead of a system where a privileged few got paid to have the full-time Hearthstone Esports lifestyle, instead we get a much fairer system where nobody can make it that way. he's not wrong. It definitely, as you said, it translated better for players where the US dollar was favorable against their local currency, and where cost of living was a little bit different. It wasn't really, it was barely enough to be an actual like stipend, like cost of living stipend here in the States based on where you live. But in other places it was enough. Like that was a salary. So I am not surprised that they're really negative about it, as to be expected. And GM as a system, it's just my observation. GM as a system, I think the way that I can really know in my heart that it was a failure, when it was launched, people thought the invites were too arbitrary, was too hard to get in, and they decided to quit playing competitive Hearthstone. When it was going, people who either got relegated or were more successful doing other things like Dog decided it wasn't worth it, and they quit, either when they got kicked out or when they didn't want to do it anymore. There were 4 or 5 people that quit last season. Just Sayin, Muzzy, Tice, Blitzchung, not Tice, Tiz, T-I-Z-S, Surrender. There were a few people that just said, I'm out. So before, when it was launched, people quit. When it was going, people quit. Now that it's over, people are quitting. Any system where the people who are in it are leaving the game because of it is not good. And there's no phase of the system that didn't result in people being disenchanted with Hearthstone. So Luna's talked about it pretty clearly about how it's just, you can't take a season off without losing your job, and the burnout is just so hard to avoid, and we've seen it happen. But I do feel for the players that this was their job, especially the newer players that just qualified in. The players that just made it GM, it was their dream. They got the gold card back. They're the GMs now. Then being told, oh yeah, by the way, this is not a thing anymore. I feel for them, right? Like it was their dream, and they had something to show for it, and then it's just gone. So, yeah, it's a difficult situation overall. But I think this is the right call. If you ask GMs, they would tell you that it isn't. But it's just a much more accessible system that suits the goal of players with the dream of playing in the World Championship now have a clear path to get there. In addition, something that I thought of specifically for you, Edelweiss, 3 weekends of qualifier per Masters Tour is 18, plus 6 Masters Tours, 24, 2 seasonals, 26 Worlds, 27 weekends out of the year are taken by Hearthstone Esports. Do you know how many that leaves is 25 weekends without necessarily planned events, which means third-party events. Third-party events. We can do it. It can happen now.
I sure hope so. I mean, it says that certain spots are reserved for third-party events. So I don't know what that means. Hopefully it means like DreamHack and some other stuff. Big things going on. I'm no longer in that game, which is kind of a bummer because I sort of missed the window there when I was trying to do stuff. People... Either I was doing it in the middle of the week and, a lot of folks work then, or I was doing it on the weekend, and so people that were interested were playing in Masters Tour qualifiers instead. So hopefully we'll get some pretty sweet third-party events going. I've always thought how cool it is that Magic has, TCG Player and Star City Games and all these groups running big tournaments in addition to whatever circuit Wizards has going on. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get some big Hearthstone stuff again, because I really missed DreamHack. It was really sad for me when DreamHack stopped doing big Hearthstone stuff. And I think they've only done one since.
Yeah, it's third-party events. I mean, there are a lot of things in the way of third-party events right now, like mostly the world. But those were... People still talk about the ones that they went to back in the day. They're pretty formative experience for people that get to experience them, so I hope that some of them come back in real life. There are also some rules changes here. They're working on Maestro legality, so that's coming. Players are allowed to stream their matches either on delay or in emote-only mode, so you can just do emote only. I guess that's good. You can do that. The first time you queue the wrong deck, if it's caught in the mulligan, it is a warning, not a game loss. And Masters Tour earnings depend on how many games you win, not your placement in the tournament. No tiebreakers for prizing. It is a cut based on your record, not on your placement. Smart, overdue. Cool. We also have the budget here on the screen. If you look at the budget for esports, there's, well, the breakdown is clear here. The Masters Tour is a $1.5 million purse. The Grandmaster Season 1 going down to $250K. Season 2, the last call, is $150K. The season championships are small. They're only $50K, but those events are feeding into Worlds where it's $500,000. What's this thing at the bottom? What's the thing at the bottom say? Battlegrounds Lobby Legends? Hello? Yeah, so there's some BG Esports. Those are here. We don't know much about them. We do know they will be streamed on twitch.tv, which is already a big deal. It will be multiple one-off events. It's clearly an experiment where they're trying to figure out which way they want to go. But they're going to try it. And for the first few events, it's going to be based entirely on ladder ranking. They're going to invite exclusively from ladder ranking. So your rank matters. Global event with top ladder players from NA, EU, APAC, and China. Day 1 is group play, points replacement. Top players in each group will go into Day 2 playoffs. They're doing it. They're doing the thing. Do the thing.
I think it's really cool that BG's is getting esports. People have been asking for it for a while now. This is they're very much a baby step, right? It's 500,000 of the 3 million that's going to be done for Hearthstone prizing. I do feel a little hesitant about the fact that they even put the Battlegrounds Lobby Legends on this graphic of 2022 total prizing, because it makes it seem like, look at all the stuff that's being spent on Hearthstone Esports, when I really feel Battlegrounds Esports should be its own entity. And if you do keep saying, oh, we budgeted this much for Hearthstone Esports, it's going to make people feel like, well, but hang on, I need to go in and see what's what, because Battlegrounds is a very different game than traditional Hearthstone. So particularly if that picks up, if they start like continuing to do it and it's still like the same purse getting split between the two, I just worry about more kind of tension between the two sides of like, oh gosh, we're not getting as much total prizing offered because it's going over to BG's. I really hope that doesn't end up happening, but it is a concern I have.
Yeah. I'm just glad they're supporting more formats now. There were some discussions on Twitter, as always, but what about Wild? Wild Twitter making its presence known as of recently. However, both Abar and Eric Elliott, who does global comms for their esports program, commented, Abar finished rank 1 Wild to qualify for the Wild Open 2017. He likes the format. They have had discussions about what could be possible there. However, right now, they're making so many changes that they don't want to stretch their team too thin, but they're talking about Wild and Arena and duels, potential things where there could be one-off events or competition or whatever. So these are people that are part of the community. Abar was one of us. He was on this show in episode 58. This show as a competitor. Now he runs the program. It's so nice that people as a part of the community are becoming a part of the team, and it really feels like they're making an effort to do what your average Hearthstone player, your average Hearthstone competitor wants to do. I think
another thing to keep in mind is that the very phasing out of GM means this year is a transition period, because it obviously can't look this way when there is no GM next year. So this is all, not going to stick around in its current form. They'll have to rethink things completely for next year, whether that means they have a new system to replace GMs, or it's all about big opens or whatever, and you qualify that way, more third-party events, etc., and there's no circuit like GM's, whatever it is, it's going to be different from this year. And the prize money that currently is allocated towards both GM and the GM last call thing, which is 400,000 of the prize pool, that will get distributed amongst whatever else is going on. The fact that they are being more generous in terms of the prizes based on just wins, and so it pays out to more. Usually when you pay out to more people, you pay out less. So it's much more likely to be some nice extra money on the side than something that's really helping you pay your rent because you're consistently good at this. And yeah, it's cool. I think everyone wishes that the prizes would be higher, but I think we can't really know until next year.
Yeah. It's Abar how new is he in the program? 6 months, something like that? It's recent.
It's a big system to try and recreate and sort of make into an entirely new thing that you hope makes the most people happy. Because you can never make everyone happy. And
it's worth noting their budget didn't change from the previous year, and they have like 5 people that work on the team. Like, I don't know how many, but this is a resource-constrained operation. So don't spend any more, and you only have this many people, and do what you want. They're starting here and already making a bunch of changes. So I look forward to where it lands, and I think it's a good start at least. Though I understand the people that were previously part of the old system maybe don't see as such. I think that this will generally lead to more global engagement with the esports program, even though it's not a living. But it never was.
But next year, hopefully, we can be on Twitch. And that should help.
Well, next year. It's December 23rd.
Right. Yeah.
We've got 370-something days left.
Yeah.
373. Who's counting? Yeah.
Want to be back on Twitch, and I want crowd-funded esports.
This is another thing, by the way, where Bodicus was correct. That being on Twitch matters. Have you noticed that, Bodicus? That you've been correct all the time?
Definitely not all the time. I didn't think Cariel was a very good card, but I just have a blind spot for Pala. I just have a blind spot for Paladin cards, let's be real. It's just Paladin cards, if I say a Paladin card is not good, you should probably craft a bunch of them, because you're going to get a bunch of wait, no, that doesn't work. You're probably going to get dust refunds on them, so just hold on to them, because,
Yeah. Any thoughts on esports, Bot?
I wish I was still good at Battlegrounds. And yeah, I'm kind of surprised. So, like, all of the people that are qualified for GM, are they just SOL? They don't get paid for, like, wouldn't it make sense to just pay them for the next, like they qualified for the next
well, they
section?
get paid for the first season. The first season they get paid. The second season they're just...
And then they all get relegated, right?
They're relegating everyone except 16 people. There are currently 48. So they're paying everyone that plays. The first season is full salary, even though I think it's per week payment. I don't know exactly how this payment goes. It's not been disclosed. But it's only 4 weeks for the first season. So I don't know if they get a full salary for that entire season. They get paid per week or whatever. But yeah, they're spending $250K on that, and then $150K on the second season. But the second season is way smaller.
I don't even want to talk about this because we do this podcast where we talk about tournaments, and I literally don't know how it worked. But would all of them have gotten relegated, or like would there have still been relegations in the first season? Is there always relegations in the first season? Okay,
yep. It's 3 or 4 per region, something. I think it's 3 per region. There would be normal churn, but this is way more than normal. This is reducing GM by 2/3 in size. That normally wouldn't happen, but it was a risk to anyone that was in GM.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, Yeah, so unfortunate for those people, but for the overall long-term health of Hearthstone Esports, it sounds like they're moving in the right direction, even though it affects, you know, what is that,
32.
32 people fairly negatively. I'm sorry for your loss, but I'm sure there's going to be other ways to figure out a way to do things.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah.
Overall health. Sounds like they're just working on the overall health of Hearthstone Esports, and probably a lot of the. I doubt that Hearthstone is the only one trying to figure it out. My guess is that Hearthstone is not the only one trying to figure out how to maintain a competitive environment in a game where it is very clear to the majority of people involved that the place that makes money is in content creation, not in competition at the moment. And I think that goes with fortunately or unfortunately, however you look at it, not just with games in general, or not just with video games. Kind of, that's a larger scope thing with most ways to make money in quote unquote entertainment nowadays. But that is a discussion for another podcast. So I think we should probably try to just wrap it up.
Yes. There is one thing that is more fun. There is a new format they're going to try out in GM that I like a lot. It's called Trio. So the way Trio works, the tournament organizer makes buckets of 3 classes. Whatever 3 that they pick, and it's basically you're making a restaurant menu of classes. Make a bunch of predefined buckets. Everybody picks one of those buckets from the list. But you don't tell people what you picked. You secretly pick. Build 3 decks of those 3 classes. Submit them, and they're all revealed at the same time. No ban. Play it out. And first to 3 wins. Best of 5. So, this is... Do you remember that awful week in GM 2 seasons ago of bring 10, ban 6? Remember that horrible week where you had to bring a deck from each class and then ban 6 of them?
Yes, and I was very sad that they didn't do the ban system I used at WSOE 2, because that was awesome. That was the best format I ever played. And
very
what they
involved,
ended up
though.
with instead was worse.
Way worse. The one that you did was very involved, but also I believe this was a 4-set meta. Some classes just didn't have things to do. So there were a lot of hungry crabs because both Paladin and Shaman had to be Murlocs. So everyone just put a bunch of hungry crabs in their deck. It was awful. The goal of that format is clearly to have underrepresented classes see more play, but instead what you do is with these buckets, you can decide what you're playing. Everybody gets the same choices. If there's a clearly more powerful one, but then another bucket you think can counter that, you can try and mind game. And it also is up to the TO's discretion. And you can do all sorts of stuff. Rational Pi is saying in chat, and I hadn't even considered this before right now, some of the buckets could have duplicates. You could have a class, like a bucket that has Paladin twice. You have to build 2 different Paladin decks. I don't think they would do that, but you could.
I feel like that wasn't the intent, and I don't know. I haven't read closely the rules, so I don't know if that's possible. But I suppose theoretically that's a thing you could do. What I was thinking more is, one, this is huge burden on the organizer, because obviously you can't have every iteration. That would just be 3 decks, no bans. Because if you have every combination, then it's just completely free choice. What you could do is say Garrote Rogue is the best deck. Then you say, okay, I am only going to put Rogue alongside these classes that don't have OTK decks. So like if you play Rogue, you still have to have a board-based strategy because you've got to do it with Shaman and Paladin or something like that.
Well, Shaman has OTKs.
Okay.
So
yes.
But like, if every
you see
rogue
where I'm
bucket
going
had a
with this.
priest in it, if all the rogues, if you want to bring rogue, you got to play priest. All of them are every priest and every rogue has a priest along for the ride. For example,
there's all kinds of things where you can sort of, through knowledge of what's going on in the meta, you can kind of handicap certain strategies or make sure that a person can't bring all OTK decks or all aggro decks because, that strategy just isn't viable in a particular class, and the class where that strategy is best viable, is only grouped with this other class. There's all kinds of weird stuff you can do, and I'm excited to not be the TO that has to make those decisions.
Yeah. I mean, it's, like worst case scenario, you mess it up and you end up with a bunch of mirror matches, but also I think there's opportunity to get pretty clever if you made a I don't know, rogue mage demon hunter bucket, right? You did that, and then there was like a druid hunter paladin. I think that sometimes taking druid hunter paladin would be correct, and it'd be interesting to see how people respond when there's one bucket that seems like it's clearly the best thing to do. Find another one that's clearly the best thing to do against them. And then it might be like this self-equalizing thing. I don't know. It could be really interesting. And it could also not be. I don't know. But it probably is. So yeah, it's fun. They're going to try it in GM first. It's not a Masters Tour format, but this is what they're going to do in GM for a couple of the weeks, I think. I think it's 1 or 2 of the weeks. They're going to try it out. We're going to see how it goes. 2 hours news. By the way, new standard fun, we don't know what's good yet, so tune in next week.
I do have a correction from something I said last week, though. Previously,
Yes.
I thought that Reckless Apprentice went face and then left to right. That was incorrect. I believe it does always go face first, but then it goes by the order in which things were played.
Timestamp. Okay. And that's going to do it for the show. We have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website, Concede.com. You can find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can support our show at patreon.com/CoinConcede. Thank you all thank you to all of you who do that. Join us every week live by following us at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CoinConcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/CoinConcede. Like some CC swag, head on over to our shop. Shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, DogeTK, Proby1, Crush Cap, B Squatch, David P, Snowpack, Lucky Fades, Black Wild Lou, Itinerant Wizard, and Jeremy T. And big thanks to our subs during the show, Grumpy Face and DogeTK for the 6 subs, one of his own and the 5 gifted ones. Thank you so much. Coin Concedes. Edelweiss, go.
My Coin Concede is to Cora, who, assuming I continue to have, negative rapid tests, I'm going to be visiting next week. So hopefully that continues to be the case. Being very careful because, oh boy, Omicron has made its presence known. So, yeah, I will end up canceling that trip if I do get a positive test, obviously. But I've been wanting to visit her since I've been back in Cleveland, and so it's a much easier trip than when I was in Philly. And she's in Chicago right now. So, yeah, I'm hoping I can pop up just for stay one night and see her. Yeah, it'll be nice.
Word. How about you, Atticus?
All right, I am going to coin concede to so this is not a Hearthstone related coin concede, but I heard the song today by an artist that goes by Ari at Home, who was recently on the Austin show. And so outside, I don't know about their content. I will just say that I heard 2 of his songs and they were a couple bops. Let me tell you. I had them stuck in my head. So if you want to check out the songs, I don't know about the content outside of that, but the songs were quite enjoyable to listen to. So I would recommend checking out at least the 2 songs that he performed on the Austin show, because it's like improv. They're improv songs. They're really good.
I'm into bops. Could bop it. All right. And then I've got a few. Nathan and Christian on the Hearthstone team. Just they were talking to me about some stuff and helped me out, so thank you for the conversations. Ben Hearthstone on Twitter called me one of the top 8 most influential Hearthstone players of the day. I think he's insane, but thank you, Ben. Yeah, that
Seems correct.
I don't know. So I want to coin concede to Varden Dongrass for making Mage Minion fun again. Thank you, Varden. Coin concede to Possessy for coming up with the base for the Zoo Mage list. Coin concede to Cat. There's a cat. Cat. Hello, cat. Cat concede. Hello. That cat does not want you to do what you're doing right now. And coin concede to the Matrix Resurrections. People have opinions about this movie, but I really loved the first one so much. I've seen it so many times, and the fourth one was like the best Matrix 1 fanfiction ever, and I really, really enjoyed it. Gonna watch it again soon, so if you liked the first Matrix, you should probably watch this one. You'll have opinions, but my opinion is I want to see it again. So, yeah, big props.
It's an allegory for transness, you know. Or at least the first one was.
I am certain that's true, but I just enjoyed... I'm not going to spoil it. I had a good time with it. I had fun. And I guess that'll do it for our show. So, keep calm and wildfire on one. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Right. Stopping recording. Thanks, y'all, for being here. I gotta go get my free dust. I forgot about it, but we just have the normals, and I just own all the cards. So. Yeah. All right, Twitch. Thank you so much. We should have our show at the normal time next week, unless something crazy happens. But I'm planning on being here normal time. So, yeah. Thank you all. Bye.
Happy holidays. Bye.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that too.